Leonie Dawson refuses to be categorized in the podcast. And today, for just the second time only, I'm interviewing someone. Oh my God. And I'm interviewing my awesome assistant slash online business manager, the lovely Zita.
Hello. I feel so honored to be the second person.
I know, and you'll probably like also be the last person, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's been going for a year. I've managed to, and that was just in the fits of enthusiasm. Um, I thought it would be cool just to talk shit with you and ask you questions that I think people would be interested in about like how you work and like what it's like being a VA and what it's like fucking working with me, because I'm sure that's a barrel of laughs as well. And all that good stuff.
Sounds
Um,
good.
for those playing at home, did you want to talk about like how you got started in being a virtual assistant and if you had to get qualifications or and what's that whole like journey been like for you?
Yeah, sure. I sort of unofficially started as a VA, I suppose, in 2012. So it was my first year out of high school. I was 19. And the high school that I went to contacted me and said that a local psychologist was looking for an assistant or an intern to just do some online management stuff. And they contacted me because I was going to uni at the following year for a bachelor's in psychology. So they were like, yeah, perfect. She's the one to go for. And from there, like, I connected with this psychologist who's still my mentor and very, very good friend to this day. And I just kind of did like drawings for her and like uploaded blog posts every now and again. And it was very casual. It was an internship. So she, in return, helped me with like all of my uni stuff and applications for things. And so that was sort of how I got started. And then the goal was to always be a psychologist. So I finished my bachelor's degree and then I started a master's in counseling and psychotherapy. And I took a little bit of a break from that. And during that break, I had a car accident. And that accident wasn't my fault at all, but it left me permanently disabled and I had to drop out of uni. And I was like, well, what's a job that I can do from home? And the psychologist contacted me and was like, oh, I have met someone who wants a VA and I recommended your name. It's a paid position. And that was my first client back in 2018. And it all sort of snowballed from there.
Oh, bless. I mean, it mustn't like, I mean, you like kind of, and I know it's been hugely painful, like going through that process, but like I'm sure it wasn't like just like a simple decision, like, okay, I have to give up my dream of like finishing my studies in psychology. Oh, well, I guess I'll just be a VA. Like it must have been like a pretty heart-wrenching process to go through that.
Yeah, it was. And like, it wasn't as sort of clear cut time wise either. So after my accident, which was at the end of 2017, I went back to continue on with my master's at the start of 2018 and made it all the way through until the first semester of 2019. And then just went, I can't do this anymore. I need to put all of my energy and effort into my VA stuff because I enjoy that. And it's just a lot less of a pressure than a master's degree.
Mm.
And the master's degree was like, I was going to have to go do placement. And I was like, that's not ethical. I'm not in a place where I can deal with someone else's trauma right now. So I was like, yeah, I'll just focus on building up my VA business instead. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever go back to psych at this point. I don't know if I can, but I don't know if I want to either now. So
Oh,
it's
that's
worked out okay in the
fascinating.
end.
That's good to know
Yeah.
because I was going to ask you, like, and I mean, I wish I should have like talked to you anyway. I was like, oh, like at some point I assumed that you would just go on to be a psychologist, and it's totally cool if you do. Um, but I do appreciate the skills that like the psych degree has given you because you are
Yes.
fabulously empathetic, and
Thank
you
you.
have very high emotional intelligence. And I think that makes you so much better to one, just to work with, and like I think it also just makes you an amazing human and an amazing friend and an amazing, when you're dealing with customer service and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yes, I was going to say it's very helpful with the customer service emails.
You're like, oh, I've read about this, I understand. Oh, well,
Conflict management,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, right on. Oh, you're funny. So how did you start working with me? I can't even remember the times, but maybe you will. So good for you if you can.
So I think my name got passed along to you by someone that you knew that I was working for at the time. I think I was recommended to you by possibly a couple of people.
Yeah, there was a few
And
friends that had you as a part-time assistant.
yeah, and so because I think one of them was Tamara,
Yeah.
who's one of your best mates. So Tam had mentioned me to you. And then you sent my like Facebook business page a message, and you were like, hi, I do this, this, and this. This is who I am. Are you available to take on new clients? And at the time I was, and I was like, yes. And you were like, great, I'll be in contact to organize like a call. And then it was about 2 or 3 months of silence. And I was like, okay, well, that's all right. Like, not every person who reaches out, like, it doesn't always work out, and that's okay. And then you sent me a message and you were like, I think it was something like, hey, free next Tuesday.
It is so on brand for me, honestly.
It's like, yeah, I am. I'm free every day. Like, go for it. And we had a call over Facebook, I think it was, just like Facebook, and you added me as a friend on Facebook, and you were like, yeah, cool. And then within a week, you'd sent me just like the sort of documents for getting started and what I needed to know and some of the like operating procedures. And then I just jumped straight into that inbox and was like, oh, hello. And that was it.
I think like I remember like at the time, like you didn't have any like experience in the particular softwares that I was using
No.
anyway. But like what I most appreciated about you was that you were like, look, I don't know about like how to use, I think it was Infusionsoft. It was Infusionsoft when we started, right?
Yes.
You're like, I don't
Yes.
know, but look, I'm sure I can work it out, and I'll work it out in my own time as well. And I'll just, because it's like training and it's great for me.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, cool, fucking champion. And like, that's exactly what you did. And I think like the only way that you can ever find out if somebody's going to be a good match for you is just by like testing it out, really, because you got to work out like if your work styles and like whether you can cope with me, let's face it. Because I
Yeah,
absolutely will go missing for months on end, and you know that.
yeah, and I mean, like, it's also helpful too, I think, when you start during a relatively busy period. So when I started, it would have been the either the end of August or the beginning of September, because it was like a couple of weeks before your academy sale finished. And then it was last chance to buy the academy. That was when I started. And so yeah, I had no idea. I'd never used like the back end of WordPress, which is what the academy was originally like run on. I'd never used Infusionsoft, which was obviously the software that connected it all together. And you were make it was the final sale of the academy, so there was like thousands of people who were like, yes, I want this. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever had to do. I've never had so much responsibility in my life. Like, so I think that was a really good like introduction, because I was like, okay, well, we're starting when it's super hectic. Like, it's never been that hectic since, because I mean, like the payment, like what people were using to pay broke in the like last 4 days of the sale, and it took about a week to get fixed. And so we were having to manually process orders when people emailed in, and we were getting like 400 or 500 emails a day. It was just ridiculous, but it worked. We did it.
Totally. And it's like the sink or swim. I was like, well, is this new person going to cope with this or not? Like, that's great either way, like if it doesn't, it's fine. It's new, like, information. And if it does, like, great, we can keep rolling together. And I just love how you're the ducky. You're just like the effortless duck across the surface with your little legs going, oh, holy fuck.
Yeah, and I will say that, like, even though you sort of say like, "Oh, I disappear for months at a time," if I do genuinely get stuck or something happens, you are there immediately. Like, so I always feel very supported, but I also know that I'm like, well, let's see if I can figure this out. And if I can, then great. I don't need to bother you with it. And then if I can't, I know that I can go to you and be like, excuse me, Leonie, help. Help me, please.
That's true. Remember, like, that one time that you've called me and I was in Big
Oh my
W,
God.
and I was like, Zita, is everything all right? And you're like, I've just got this thing. And I was like, I'm just in Big W in the Nintendo section. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be home in like 20 minutes or so. But
Oh,
it was
yes.
pretty funny. So we've been working together for like maybe, what is it, 2 years, 2.5 years? Surely it must be that.
It'll be 2 years. Just 2 years and like 3 months. 2 years and 3 months, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just over 2 years.
Fucking solid. And so we started, like, did you want to talk about how like whether you work full time, how we set up that whole structure?
Yeah, sure. So when we first started, it was just you would basically tell me what you wanted me to do that week, which at the very beginning was just customer service emails. So once a day, I would log on, I would hit a timer, I would answer the customer service emails and fix any sort of issues that I had found. Maybe someone had emailed in and said, "Oh, I didn't receive this email." So then I would jump into Infusionsoft and fix that. And then once I'd answered all the customer service emails, I would hit stop on the timer, and then I would invoice you on a weekly basis. And that was it. That was how we started. And so it was usually it, some weeks it probably wouldn't have even been like 2 hours a week when I first started, because you were still kind of in maintenance mode with your business, and I was just running customer service emails. And then as we went along, you gave me a few more responsibilities. So then it was managing some Facebook groups, creating some monthly graphics, doing some monthly prizes, sending those out. And so, but even then, it was still obviously very part time. Which suited me perfectly with the injuries that I was, trying to recover from the car accident. And it just sort of slowly built up my responsibilities until July of this year, where you said, "How would you feel about taking on me as your only client?" Because up until that point, I was still working with 5 or 6 other people, including you. Um, Again, on a very sort of part-time basis, and not every day or every week. But and so that was when you brought up online business manager, which is slightly different to a VA, just in the sense that the online business manager maybe manages launches of products and looks at the overall business plan. And whereas a VA is more just like, okay, here's a list that my boss has given me. I'm going to work through it, and then I'm clocking off for the day. So it was a bit more responsibility. And um, yeah, so we did a trial of that, which was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then we did that for a month, and it just worked perfectly. So then we transitioned into me just working for you 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, And that was it, really. That was how we went from me doing like 2 hours a week to 20 hours a week. So, yeah.
It's awesome. And like, here's the thing, because like when people hear that I only work 10 hours a week, they're like, well, that's because you've got a really large team. So did you want to share how many like, you know, how many staff I've got and how many people we work with and that kind of stuff?
Sure. You have one staff and it's me.
Yeah, boom.
So we have other contractors. So we've got a team that sort of do the Facebook ads because that's very specialized. But in terms of like day-to-day running of the business, that's you and to an extent me. So I do everything from the customer service emails, a lot of the social media management, um, yeah, like managing the courses. I've done the last launch that we did, which not the workbooks, the finish your book in 40 days. I ran that launch while you were working on the workbooks, finishing those off. The Shopify, the front end of the Shopify store that we used to sell the workbooks, I did most of that. So it's really just you and me. And then if I'm ever away or busy, then we might get someone temporary to just come in and quickly cover for me. Um, but yeah, between the pair of us, that's kind of it.
And
It's great.
we both kind of like it like that, right? Like I've gone through the
Yes.
big team thing and I hated it and realized I only work well with just like one right hand person. And you're kind of the same way, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have worked in big teams before. Like I worked in for a catering company in Melbourne. So obviously when you work in hospitality, you are part of a big team. And I really enjoyed that. That was a really nice experience. Um, but when it comes to sort of behind the scenes teams, I've noticed that that can get a little bit tricky because, first of all, there's just time zones to deal with, which can be hard. And then just clashing personalities. And then obviously, like having multiple bosses, if you've got a boss for this and then someone else that you go to for that, it just gets a bit cluttered and you spend more time trying to manage the team than you actually do getting work done.
Bingo. And I just like getting work done. I just like
Yep.
making things happen.
Yep.
So did you want to share some of your favorite bits of software that you use every day in our company to run it?
Yes, absolutely. So the first two that come to mind, the first one is Asana. So that is I guess, like a daily, weekly, monthly organizing software. It basically allows me to have a board and a to-do list. And so there's just big different lists that are, to do, and then in progress, things that I've completed, training, templates for repeating tasks. And that is extremely helpful with managing my schedule because I also have ADHD. And if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Like, that's it. So for Leonie to be able to access that and just write in, on Monday, you have to do this, this, and this. I'm like, great, that's Monday, done, sorted, scheduled. So Asana is very, very helpful. And there are other ones like it that I've used before, like Trello, but I just really like the usability of Asana.
We
And the
should
second one, oh,
we should say
sorry.
that's all right. We should say as well, like when we went to use project management software, instead of me choosing what to use,
Yes.
I just said to Zita, like, you go test what ones you want, and then you decide what one you like using because you're the one who's going to fucking use it. I have like no particular attachment and necessarily won't use it myself, but I'll use it to assign shit to you. So just use one that works for your brain.
Yes. Yes. And that was really good because I think you gave me a list of a couple that you were like, here are some that I've found for me to go and have a look at. And one of them I was like, oh my God, that's sensory overload. There is such a thing as too much visualness, and this other one was that. And then I looked at Asana and I was like, that's perfect. Thank you.
You just have to find the one that works for your brain. So I'm glad it's working for your brain, boo.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Me too. And then the other software that we use, which I love, 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 is Kajabi. So we use Kajabi as what the e-courses are hosted on. It is also where our mailing list is. And you can do so much more with it too. Like you can have your website through it and your blogs. But you've got so many blogs that I was very grateful when you were like, no, we'll just leave them where they are. Because I was like, if you make me transfer like 40,000 blogs,
It's
oh my
only
God.
2,500, Zeta. Don't be a spoil sport.
Oh.
No, we're not fucking doing that. We're not moving. They don't have a bulk import option yet, so it's not fucking happening.
No. But yeah, Kajabi is just so much more user friendly than Infusionsoft, in my opinion. It's much more, it's just everything all in one place, which
Yeah.
is just fantastic because it means that you're not having to learn multiple softwares. Their customer service support, their live chat is excellent. We always get a hold of them. If there's ever something that I can't figure out, I will just contact them and be like, help, how do I do this? And they'll be like, you can't, or you just do it like this. And it's just fantastic. So if you're doing an e-course, I recommend Kajabi.
It's pretty good. Like, I just wanted it to simplify back down to the point where I could create something, or somebody who wasn't like a certified professional. Because if you know, like Infusionsoft, you've got to be like basically a certified professional to even understand how to
Mm-hmm.
use it. And so I just wanted us, like, as numpties, to be able to just use it. And I love that we don't have to use tech staff, that are like $3 billion an hour to work
Yes.
stuff out. We just talk to live chat.
Yes, absolutely. And like when I was using Infusionsoft back in the sort of academy, in the last year of the academy, every time I fixed something, I constantly felt like it was less of a fix and more of me just kind of figuring out how to like prop it up with a stick and put a band-aid on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't gonna hold. Like eventually this is gonna break and then there'll be a domino effect and it will break everything else. But we managed, we did it. It
We,
didn't break, but
we did
it's
it.
nice that could, yes, we did. But it's nice that Kajabi is just like once you fix something, it is fixed.
I mean, to be fair, that it was basically 7 years of that in Infusionsoft. Is like, all
Mm.
right, we'll just fucking string it together with tin cans and hope it works. So, like, and part of there was a lot of reasons why I closed the academy, but part of it was, we had been selling it since 2010,
Wow.
and the different payment processes and systems we had using, like to sell to people, and people were on different subscriptions from old payment processes, and it was just insane. So I thought, oh my fucking God, let's burn it all down, clean slate, put it all together and make sure it fucking works this time.
Yes. Yes. No, it was a wonderful transition.
um and we should say as well, like, a hearty shout out to Canva for helping us
Oh,
with all our design shit as well.
yes. Canva is so I have a pretty visual eye. And my housemate is a full-time illustrator and does a lot of graphic design. So I feel pretty supported. But Canva, when I first started using Canva, was just so helpful, so helpful, so good for social media management as well.
It really is, right? And I just, like, I love the fucking templates, and I love, like, it was, I can't remember if I did this process with you. Surely it would have been around about that time. I went to a designer and got like a whole rebrand done. And part of that was that they uploaded all of our design elements into our Canva account. So we could just like
Yes.
rehash this shit over and over.
Yes. Which is great because then you get brand consistency
Yeah.
as well. So
Very
Yeah.
sexy. Okay, how do
Yes.
we communicate together every day through just how do we comms?
Well, usually it's memes through Facebook Messenger.
Yes. Yes.
um, and then every now and again we might talk business. But yeah, so our main form of communication is through Facebook Messenger. That's how we communicate. And then obviously, if there are tasks that you need me to do or I need you to do, they go into the relevant Asana board, whether it's the online business management or the Leonie board. And then very occasionally, I will forward you emails from the support inbox and we might discuss something via email. But and then we occasionally, like, we've been having more calls, like video calls, since I've started doing online business management for you. So we probably on average have one like every couple of weeks just to kind of check in and catch up and talk shit.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know if it was every couple of weeks. It's probably every couple of months, maybe. I think we've had less than 10 phone calls together, like in
Yeah,
all
I
our
reckon
time
you're right.
together. Yeah. We're both like quite, like, we're kind of reclusive in our own little ways, and that works really well for both of us.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah. I will say, like, when I asked Zita if I could do this, well, no, let's face it. I was talking on the podcast and I was like, it'd be really funny if I interviewed my assistant. Hey, if you guys want me to do that, send it an email and I'll do it. And I just thought, Zita's going to hate that. And then Zita, of course, got the emails in the supporting box going, yeah, we want to interview your assistant. And she's like, oh, thanks, mate. And then you were like, oh, is it going to be a video one? And I said, no, audio only, so you can keep your dressing gown on for it. And you were like, oh God, thank God. So we kind of know each other a little too well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so we did get some emails about it, but the first that I actually heard of it was doing the promo for your podcast. So I sat down and I was like, righto, like I'll go through and I'll listen to your podcast and then I'll pick bits out to do snippets of for Instagram stories. And I'm listening to it and I get to the end and then I hear you go, oh, by the way, I was thinking, should I interview my assistant? And I was like, I'm the assistant. I don't like this. Oh, what's happening? And then I think I just messaged you with what you'd said in quotes and was like, oh my God, that's me. You're talking about me.
There's only one assistant, Zita.
I was like, oh, there's no one else.
There's no second assistant waiting in the timeline. Oh my God, remember that time somebody emailed in and was like, oh, it was so great to meet with you. I can't wait to work for your company, Leonie. And you just forwarded it to me and you were like, question mark? Question mark? Question mark? Is there something I need to know? And I was like, no, because I don't know why this person's emailed me. I don't know if it was wishful thinking. I don't know if it was wrong email or what, but it was pretty funny.
It was, I was like, oh, I must be missing something. I'll forward it on to you. And like, like every now and again, a resume will be sent to the support inbox or something. And I always forward it obviously onto you. But yeah, that one really did kind of make me laugh because I was like, I run Leonie's calendar. What do you mean you met with her? If you met with her, that pretty much would have been organized through me, and I don't know about it. So I'm immediately suspicious of this.
Also, I know how many days are blocked out on Leonie's calendar that says no call day.
Yeah.
That's funny. What does your daily life look like when it comes to working as a part-time VA?
So, yeah, that's a really good question. It's changed a lot over the sort of, I guess, 3-ish years that I've been doing it as like my full focus. So obviously like when I like, because I work and I have a permanent disability and I've got ADHD, so that takes a lot of self-management. And so for me now I feel like I'm in the sweet spot. So I usually wake up around sort of 7:30 a.m., which if you compared that to a year ago when I was waking at like 11 a.m., is a huge improvement. And then I will just kind of get up, do a very brief morning routine, sit at my computer, and I will get started. And generally, my first task of the day is I go straight to the inbox to see what customer service emails there are. And then at the moment, I will then immediately go and work through the workbook orders, because once an order is placed, we then have to pay for the production costs. So I will work through whatever orders have come in overnight, pay the production costs of those so that they can get straight into production as soon as possible. And that at the moment is taking me like 2 hours a day. Like it's a big job, because there's so many orders coming in, which is absolutely fantastic. And then the rest of my day is generally like, of my work shift is generally I'll promote a podcast episode if one has come out that day. I will go through and write any sort of weekly roundup emails or sales emails that maybe need to go out in the following week. And then I'll go do sort of some admin stuff. So I'll go check all the Facebook groups, make sure everyone's okay in there, approve requests to get into the Facebook group. And then generally that's my day done by like 12:30. So I'll start around 8:30 in the morning and I'll finish by 12:30. And then the rest of the day is just trying to follow Leonie's advice and have some hobbies outside of my business.
Yeah, good for you, Boo. And also, just like,
Thanks.
well, and also like it's been a tricky year. Zita lives in Victoria, which has had, you know, significant lockdowns this year. And you're also somebody
Yes.
who's like, I'm going to stay the fuck home because I can't
Yes.
afford to get sick. Um, so you've been pretty housebound this year anyway.
Yes, definitely. So, and I mean, so I was in Japan in March when shit hit the fan all over the world. We left before it was a pandemic and we came home after it was a pandemic. And I will say 0 out of 10 do not recommend.
It
Thankfully
was
it was
not cute.
my
It wasn't cute.
no, it was acutely stressful. And I mean, thankfully it was like, and I'm very grateful and very privileged. Like it was the third time that I'd been to Japan. So it wasn't like, oh my goodness, my first trip to Japan has been ruined. Like I was pretty grateful that I had been before. But um yeah, I mean, when we eventually got home from that, like our flight got cancelled, we got home like 48 hours before they put like the borders into lockdown. So if we'd gotten home after that, we would have had to have quarantined in a hotel for 2 weeks, like 6 hours away from where I live. It would have been just extremely stressful. And so once we eventually made it home, I was like, well, I don't need to leave the house now for at least 2 years. So
You
I'm
have
good.
had a you've had a good adventure. It was pretty
Hmm.
stressful because you were over there for like a month and like every
Hmm.
day, like there was new bits of news coming out. And I would like, I'm sure I didn't help your anxiety because I would be like, Zia, what if Australia locks its borders too? Like, can you get home now? Like, have you confirmed your flights? Like, please come
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, it was an intensely stressful time because Qantas, so we flew with Qantas and they had to cancel our flight home and then sent us the information for the flight that they'd rebooked us on. And we confirmed it from our end, and Qantas took 9 days to confirm it from their end.
You
And
bastards.
we were just being constantly told, do not call Qantas unless you are like flying out within 24 hours. And we were like, whoa, shit. Like, how do we contact someone to find out how we're getting home? Like, I would like a job to go back to, please. Like, if I end up stuck out of the country for like 6 weeks or 2 months, that's going to be that's not great. I'm I'm gonna run out of money. Thank you. Help.
Mhm.
So
You would have just been our
yeah.
Japanese office
Yeah.
for Leonie
Yeah.
Dawson International. We truly would have been Leonie Dawson International because somebody would have worked in
Yes.
Japan.
Yes, it would have been, but I mean, I had no computer, I had no iPad, I just had my phone, and that was it, and so that would have been, whew,
It would
that
have
would have
been
been a lot.
It would have been a lot. I should say for anyone who's an American listener, because you probably won't understand this, but here in Australia, we did actually lock down the country, and we still have locked down the country,
Mm,
and we're pretty close to having COVID eradicated in Australia, which is amazing. But the way that the Australian government has done that is by severely limiting inbound traffic. So you can't really leave the country, and you can't come back to the country. And if you do, they're only allowing a certain number in, and then you have to pay like $3,000 to be put in like army controlled quarantine, really, until we can prove that you don't have the dreaded spicy cough.
yes, it's a level of stress that is not worth any cheap holiday at the moment,
No.
because I some people were like, "Oh, flights are so cheap at the moment," and I'm like, "Yeah, for a reason."
Ew.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Stop doing that. Yuck, yuck. Um, that's fine. I'm so glad you made it back okay. And you know what? If we can
Oh,
get through
thank you.
2020 together, we can get through anything. Um,
Well, that's it.
what is the most challenging part of working for me? This is not
Ooh.
a trick interview question, by the way. I'm well aware of my own flaws, and I know that you love me. I'm totally okay for you to say.
It's like I answer the question and the recording just cuts dead. Like, that's it.
Just edit that out, edit it out gracefully.
Um, oh, that's such a good question. I think probably the the hardest part is you will sometimes get so focused on creative mode
Mhm.
and you'll upload everything to Kajabi and you'll be like, it's all done. And I'll be like, fantastic. And then the next morning, I wake up to like 50 emails of people being like, this didn't work. And it's because in your excitement, you've forgotten to like toggle a switch or
Yes. Yep,
um, there's an
yep.
incorrect link or something. And
That's
so
very true. Very true.
that for me is probably like the hardest part because then whatever I have planned that day goes out the window. Because I'm running around being like, okay, how do I fix this?
It's true, and I love that you kind of, like, know that now, and you also know which parts I can forget to toggle, and,
Yes.
you've said to me before that you saw me launch something, and I never tell you anything in advance when I'm gonna launch because I
Nope.
just don't know. I just don't know. We're not planners, we just have no
No.
clue. Whatever the inspiration fairies hit Leonie, that's what happens, and I'm
Well,
sure
yeah.
that
And also, I feel that the more time you have to plan, the more time you have to be anxious. So, what's the point?
That's true. That's true. And it also, like, the more time you've got to have your own head stuck up your own asshole, you know what I mean? And just get caught
Yes.
in second guessing yourself. Um,
Yes.
but now, like, it's kind of a fluid process because you'll see me launch something, and like you've said, oh, yes, I saw that. And I just kind of slipped off the couch and into the room and just a little quicksy checksy and make sure that's topped on, that one's done, and we're all good for the morning. And so it's quite seamless now.
Yes. Yes. So usually what happens is I'll receive a sales email. So it'll be like, because obviously I'm signed up to your mailing list. So my phone will buzz and I'll be like watching YouTube or something on the telly in the evening with my housemate. And I'll be like, oh, can we just pause it for like 5 minutes? Because I just have to go to my office and make sure that all the affiliate stuff is working for this course launch and that the links are right. And then we've had like 2 blips and that's been it. Like they've all been fine after those blips. But I'm like, yeah, I'll just go double check because then it makes less work for me and also less work for you, which is what we want.
Yes, this is true. And I mean, I do really appreciate the fact that you are totally cool with me just running with crazy ideas, even if it's going to create a whole lot of uh, extra work for you. Like, remember that time I was like, oh my God, great idea. I'm just going to email my whole list and ask if anyone wants to interview me for anything.
Oh, yes, yes, I do. Leonie, I do remember that. Thank you for the reminder.
Like, took like 10 days out of your work cycle at least. Ugh.
I mean, to be fair, I think because we had discussed, because you were like, oh, I wanna do some more interviews. And I think I was the one who said, I'd mentioned like, oh, well, you could just put a post out on social media or something. And so it was definitely partly my fault too, because I, for some reason, forgot that you have like 23,000 followers on Instagram. And I was just like, yeah, we'll get a couple emails, it'll be fine. And then for 10 days afterwards, the inbox was just like, oh, here's 100 new emails all threaded. So I have to go through them individually to figure out who's emailed in new because the inbox wouldn't separate them. They all just replied to the email, which is fair enough. That's what they were meant to do. But our end was just like, holy shit. Okay. I have to go through and manually organize like 200 interviews.
It's really funny. And then you like, and then we basically had interviews like lined up for like the next it was like 12 months
Oh,
in
they go until like May next
oh,
year, and we did them in June of this year.
fun time. Fun time. Leonie's got good ideas.
Such good ideas.
Such good ideas. But I do appreciate, because I used to have some staff that get really fucking pissy when I do shit like that. And understandably, because, like, it's for people who like to plan, it's not fun for them whatsoever. But it's also just like, it's the only way I can work in a way that's good for me. And so I just appreciate that you really are just like, cool, what's happened now? And you're always like so excited and positive about it, really, even though it does like make a lot of work for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't think I've ever genuinely been like growly or grouchy over something like that. I've
No.
just been like, oh shit, here we go again. All right, put the boots on, wade into the customer service trenches, and off we go. Because for me, I always see it as a bit of a learning experience too. And because you are so like engaged and you want feedback, I know that if I'm like, this really didn't work, I can tell you that and you'll be like, okay, cool, we won't do it like that again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Tell me where I
So
fuck up. Yeah.
yeah. So for me, like I will be like, okay, yes, I have a lot more emails to answer. Can I think of a better way to do it at this time? No, I can't. So why bother being like grumpy and negative about it? Because this is great. Like I am really engaged with your audience. Um, my my favorite thing about doing customer service emails is when I get to like solve someone's problem or just make them happy. And so many people, when I was like, yeah, cool, so I've booked you in for an interview and this time and this date, were like, oh my god, you've made my month, I can't wait to like talk to Leonie. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I got to help. Like, so yeah, it works well.
That's really lovely. And what's the best part of working for me?
Oh, the best part, I reckon it's the fact that I reckon it really ties into what we were just talking about, where you really don't micromanage me at all. At all. I don't even think you know what micromanaged means. It's not in your vocabulary.
It's true.
And so I, will ask you for, if we're doing something new, I'll be like, okay, what are your boundaries around this? What are your expectations? What's your kind of brief vision for it? And then that's kind of it. And I'll just go ahead and do whatever it is. And I'll let you know when it's done. And then you'll look over it, make any changes, and that's it. So it's a very, it's a really good process for me, because if you give me a task to do that I've never done before, I don't feel like I have to check in with you, every 10 minutes to be like, okay, I've done this. Are you happy with that? Okay, I've done that. How are you feeling about this? I can just work through it and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's it. That's exactly what I was imagining. Or you're like, oh, this is great, but could you just change this and this? And that's it. And that is fantastic because I get things done so much quicker than if someone is hovering or constantly wanting feedback. So yeah,
That's
I'd say that.
that's true. I'm definitely not a micromanager. Like that makes
No.
me laugh out my nose. Kind of the
Yes.
opposite of a micromanager. I'm just like, fly free, my birdie, and take care of everything.
Yes. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to learn. So I don't have any formal training in marketing. I don't have any formal training in business management or like accounts or anything. My only formal like education is a bachelor's of psychology. That's it. So being thrown into that deep end and just being like, well, if I can't figure it out, I'll just Google it. Reddit will tell me, or a YouTube tutorial will exist and we'll figure it out. That's a great way to learn because you're learning by doing rather than learning by being told. So,
It's true. It really is the best way to learn. And I think like that's why we work so well together is we're both autodidacts and we're just like, oh, I don't know how to do it. Okay, that's fine. We'll just work it out.
yeah.
And we would also like to work it out by ourselves and not
Yes.
talk through it too much. Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome. What would you say to anyone who wants to be like the right hand person to, a creative business owner? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I would say it can be really overwhelming when possibly listen to this and you hear about all the different tasks that I do and everything that goes, fits into a 4-hour day. Um, but I think it's important to remember that I didn't start there. I started with my strengths, which were customer service and a bit of graphic design. Um, and so my recommendation would be figure out, a couple of things that, would you think would be really, really beneficial to a business owner. So whether that's like social media management or video editing or customer service, like whatever it might be, um, and market yourself based on that. And then if you feel comfortable with learning a new skill, dedicate yourself to that. And it doesn't, like I said, I don't have any formal university training in marketing, but I paid attention to what other people were doing and, followed other people on Instagram who I thought that's a really good marketing strategy and they've got really good content ideas. And I sort of just learned by osmosis, really, just really paying attention and then doing e-courses. I'm currently working through a graphic design e-course at the moment, which Leonie organized. And so that is like really, really helpful. And I would just recommend start there. Start with what you're good at and then build up.
That's fucking awesome advice. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, by the way. And sorry for like just like throwing you in the deep end of it, but I do have a history of throwing you into the deep end of things. And
I was going
thus,
to say that's a sentence I've heard before.
yes, thus far you have not drowned. So well done. Well done, grasshopper.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Remember we were joking around the other week about how like you and me we're kind of like a team sport, but not at all because neither you and me hate sports. But like
Yes.
I'm like I throw you the ball and I'm like, yeah, go hit that goal, you get it, girl. And then I'll just like disappear off into the bushes and have a magical experience looking up at the animals, and I'll write about it, and I'll emerge like afterwards,
Yes.
and you'll be all like fucking sweaty and dirty, and you'll be like, I did it, I scored the goal. And I was like, oh, I knew you would, darling.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we talked the other day when we were having one of our, I guess, rare video calls regarding business stuff, where I was like, yeah, there's this task and I think you have to do it. And I like made the motion of like volleying a ball to you, and you were like, oh no, but what if you tried this? And then you made the motion of volleying it back to me, and I was like, no, I didn't want to do it. I wanted you to do that. And I mean, I ended up doing it and it ended up being absolutely fine. But like, we do use weird, like, kind of team sports analogies when we are the least athletic people on the planet. It's fantastic.
We really are. And that is our love language. Just say no to sports.
Yes. Oh, yes. Just say no.
Yes. Yes, just say no. All right, Zita, you're a fucking legend. Did you want to send people anywhere? Like, did you want them to like go look at your your Instagram or you and your dad's business Instagram at all, or do you just prefer to lay completely low?
No, that would be fantastic. So, yeah, my Instagram is just Zita__Norton. I will be doing the promo for this episode, so I will put it in the show notes. um, and my dad and I have an Etsy called Ebb and Flow Market. And my dad is a woodworker, so we've got a whole heap of really nice, gorgeous essential oil stands and iPad stands and iPhone stands and all sorts of fun things made out of wood. So yeah,
They're really beautiful. I've got some of your pieces and they're just gorgeous.
thank you.
Oh, and we should say, make sure that you add to Zeta's workload.
Oh,
But make sure that you order your workbooks by January 15th. So all the
yes.
2021 goal getter range, in order to like, so Zeta can start working on other projects, we are going to stop the sales of those January 15th. So if you want to set your goals for the next year, you absolutely need to order them now. Do not email Zeta on January 16 going, oh, I missed out. We'll be like, too bad, so sad. We gave you more than enough notice. It's more than a month.
Yeah.
Do
As
not
much
forget.
as I like trying to make people happy, if you do email in after that deadline, there is genuinely nothing I can do, because we would have ended our contract with the printer for any ongoing like new orders. So all orders placed before the 15th will obviously be fulfilled and delivered and sorted, and they'll be beautiful, but you won't be able to place any new orders after that date.
Totes my goats. You heard it here first from the horse's mouth, from the, yes, the support service mouth yourself. Yes. All right. All right. This was fun. Thank you, Zeta. You're a legend.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Yay.